Good morning, good evening. We're learning the mimer of Koyam Hashem Tzivakos, which is based on the Haftarah of Zechariah for Shabbos Chanukah. Page 20. That's China, we're just starting. We're doing the mimer Koyam Hashem Tzivakos, page 25 in the PDF. Based on it's a pasuk from the Haftarah of Shabbos Chanukah. So the pasuk says, he brings parts of the pasuk. It says Koyam Hashem Tzivakos, so said Hashem, Lord of hosts. If you're going to walk in my ways, I'm going to place you, a person of movement, a person of walking, amongst those who stand here. This is, we speak about this many times. So we want to understand what is this idea of being a mahalach, a person, an entity of movement amongst those who stand. So the Alter Rebbe says like this: it's known. Who are the oimdim? Who are those who stand? Those are the angels. As the verse says in Yeshaya Hanavi, that srafim oimdim, srafim, which are the word saref, the burning, passionate angels, are oimdim, they're standing. The gama neshamas. Now this is the next thing. It's not just that angels are standing, also a neshama, a soul of a person, to eventually be a soul of a person. Before a soul comes down to this world, meaning the soul as an entity as it is in beyond creation, beyond the body, is also nikroim gamkin aimdim, is also called an aimed, meaning to say that both an angel and a soul that hasn't yet lived or is not alive is considered a person of standing, of standing still. How do we know that a neshama, also a neshama, before it comes down into this world, is considered an oimed, something that's standing still or standing in one place? As it says, that Eliyahu Navi says that Chai Hashem is an expression of he's making a vow that this is so. Asher amadeti lefanov, that I stood in past tense before him, meaning to say that when I was in neshama, I was amadeti, I was standing. So when does it introduce the concept of something of movement? Is rak achrei yiridas haneshama le'olam hazeh. Only when the soul comes down into this world, bihislap shusan, as it encloses itself beguf, in a body, and the nefesh habahamis, and the animal soul. Like Tanya says, every person has an animal soul, has the nefesh habahamis, which is discussed at length in Tanya. And when the nefesh lekis, the godly soul, encloses itself in the body and the animal soul, as explained in Tanya, then Nikrei Mahalchim, then you become a person. Then the neshama could be a person of movement. So he explains. So what does this mean then? That an angel, and a soul prior to its being born or being created into a body is enclosed into a body is considered standing still, an oimed. So now he explains why. Because what is the basis of creation, of the creation of anything, specifically angels and souls, are from words, and words come from letters. The difference only is that the malachim heimim oisis hadibur are from words, spoken words. When it says, it brought down in different opinions when the angels were created, the fourth day or the second day, but they come from one of the utterances of the 10 utterances of oisis hadibur, utterances of speech. To comparison, that concept of speech, when Hashem uttered the utterances of creation, as it says in Tehillim, uberuach piv, through the breath of his mouth, meaning an articulation of speech, kol tzavam, all the hosts, all the angels, all the regiments of the angels. So it came from the speech of Hashem. Yisrael, and the soul of the Jewish people, al machshava, they were from the words and the letters of the thought. So there's we talk in Chassidus that the shirish, the source of the soul, comes from a much higher place than the source of the angels, because the angels, like everything else in creation, came from the 10 utterances, and the Jewish people were all of machshava, they were in the thought process prior to creation. The difference is not only in the depth of the source. Thinking means that this is, when we say something is in the machshava of God, means to say that it reaches deeper than just an utterance. An utterance is just a level of communication, but also it's before means it's the reason why there was creation, and it's also more connected because you're thinking about it. That when you speak, it's just the setting, and the angels are part of the setting of creation. They're not part of the motivation. God wasn't motivated to create the world so he could have angels. That didn't motivate God. What motivated God was the soul of the Jew. Is but they're still from the words, they're from the letters, and the letters of the thought. And Oisi says is daimim. Isis is compared in Sefer Yetzirah. It says that Isis are like stones, just like stones build homes, build houses, build buildings. So to letters and words build ideas. And the letters, if the words and the letters of one's speech or God's speech or God's thought is the source, is the shorish, is the root of the creation of angels or souls, means to say our root comes from something that doesn't move, like a stone doesn't move. Shtei avanim bainis, like it says in Sefer Yetzirah, 2 stones will build an idea. So why is it considered a daimon? Why is a daimon considered something of like a stone that doesn't move? Because you could mix, like, right, all the games, Scrabble, all the games has many letters. The question is, what words are you going to create from those letters? So the letters themselves don't create anything. They're a tool for the seichel, for the intellect, for the ideas to articulate an idea. And how do you express an idea? Either to yourself in the thought or in the speech is through words, but the letters and words. But the letters and the words themselves are just like stones. It's the seichel, hamanhigon. It's the intellect, the logic that guides how the letters are coordinated to make an idea. The letters you choose are based on the logic, the idea. And that's why if the words themselves, you needed the words to create the souls, even though he's saying an amazing idea, that even though, right, if you just take letters, just take stones and make a pile, it's not an idea. If you just take letters and mush together a whole bunch of letters, it doesn't articulate anything. So even though when you have letters in a form of a proper layout, it will give an idea, it will express an idea, and behind that idea is seichel, which is not an oimid, is not something that's standing still, but because in order for it to go from being an idea to being created, you need to go through the letters. So therefore, the souls and the angels are called oimdim, because they need to go through stones, even though they together they make up an idea. So there's something alive here. Doesn't mean they're lifeless, but they're dependent on the formulation of the letters. So therefore, he says, there's no movement. They have to stay together in order to keep the idea. They must stay together in a group of the letters. So, but what do we mean? So he says, what we see there's an expression of movement within the angels. Where do we see that? It says, Yeshaya says when he sees the vision of his chariot, which is a much higher level of the chariot of Yecheskel, he sees the angels flying. Flying is movement, right? You're flying from point A to point B. We see that the angels do move. It says, if they only move based on like letters move. What moves the angels? The awakening from below. When the Bnei Yisrael say Kedusha. In this world, Kadesh, 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 and that's proclaiming that God is beyond creation. And it allows for the Malachim to say Kadesh. The saying Kadesh ricocheting off what the Jewish people say when they say here in this world Kadesh, even if that's the whole beautiful of the idea. You can have a person standing in shul with limited kavana of what does the words Kadesh, Kadesh, Kadesh mean 3 times of proclaiming God is Kadesh, separate from creation, beyond creation. And that affects that allows for the angels to move. That's the fuel for the angels to move. They can't move on their own, like letters can't move on their own. So he explains all this. To explain, what does this mean? Why is there any kind of reaction? Asrus Leila means a reaction, an awakening from above. How is it that how is it that when someone's on an equal level, or you have something that the other person doesn't have, and like in a human relationship? So what's a Asrus Latata and Asrus Leila? In a relationship between 2 people, the person who initiates is giving something that's lacking, inspiring something that's lacking, and the person that's receiving to have that person respond to them. But Hashem, how does Hashem respond to us? He's so beyond us. How could we do anything to cause a response in Hashem? He says like this: in order to understand how could we cause a response, which is basically the idea of a serusa dilatata, an awakening from below, means we're initiating something, and that initiation should cause a response by Hashem. But the question is how? How do we cause a response? What is God lacking that we inspire something within Him? Therefore, we have to understand how God manifests within creation. There's two levels. There's the way Hashem is memali kolam. Hashem is within the world. Means the level of godliness that is within the existence of the system of creation from the highest level. Means way beyond the way we see it in our space of this creation, where we see literally only physicality, knowing that there should be a creator behind it. Like Pare says, or the Kaivel, there's a God of God. There's something, there's a power beyond creation that gave power to creation, but I don't, once God created, I'm my own entity. But for that to be allowed for someone to think that they could be their own entity is the way Hashem enclothes himself, so to say, hides himself within creation, which is memali kolam, the way Hashem fills the world. I mean, the world itself is an existence of helam, of concealment. And then there's soiviv kolam, the way God is beyond the world. So he uses the term soiviv as an outside space, meaning not limited or defined by oilam, by the helam, the concealments of creation. Pirish memali kolam. What does it mean that Hashem fills the world? That's the whole point. Everything, the godliness, the life force, how it is according to the levels of the creation. In a higher level of creation, a more absolute, where the world of Atzilus is also part of Seder Shtalshus, where we see clearly everything is godliness, but it's running according to a system. And in our world, we see nothing. We have to believe. You read this Hamadregas, and when it goes down from level to level, how Hashem creates and gives life. Creating is one thing, gives life to everything in existence. According to each measurement and its definition, right? There's no point in giving the power to see something in the keli, the vessel of an ear, or a tree's koiches in a piece of metal. So everything according to its definition. There's a chain of how everything has to be, and God fits, like something fits into something. The keli pre-exists. God created the kelim, they pre-exist, and he fits within the confines of the kelim, of the vessels within creation. And what level Hashem manifests himself as a king, like a king gives life to his kingdom, so too God gives life to his creation. God is the king of all the worlds. Like it says, the kavod of God's kingship. So the kingship is the life force that goes within the creation. Pirish Hadar, which, what does it mean, Hadar? From the word Hadar is Tiferes Gedulasa Yisbarach This is God's, it's a beauty, but within the limitations of all the world, how everything functions accordingly. It means there's a lot to say about appreciating, so to say, the handiwork of Hashem, Elif Alfin Nisham Shunei, that there's thousands of methods of serving Hashem and recognizing Hashem. As it says in Daniel, Ul Gedudav, and to the regiments of the different levels of angels, top of page 26, a misper, there's no number. Shekol Zeh Yikar Tiferes Gedulas Yisbarach. This is all the beauty of how God is great manifestation within the tremendous levels of creation and countless levels of the creation. So someone who is awed at God's power to do, so that's really it's a low level of Hashem, because you're impressed by God's ability to create. So that's only the level of God as a king. It's not God. That's not God. It's not who God is. That's how he manifests as a king. But God's way beyond that. So if you're involved and connected to God's creation and inspired by that, and that's how we start Pesukei Zimra. We're supposed to climb the ladder. We have to start there, and from there we say, one second, but there's something much beyond, much greater than that. So we have to start with climbing up the ladder of Tefillah, of Pesukei Zimra, describing God's greatness within creation, and from there we climb to realize that there's something much greater than that. But the Malachim are within, they're part of that story. So we say in the davening, they sing, they praise towards God. Rak lemelech, to the level of God, el chai v'kaim, of the true life. Kihu levadai pirish b'bchinas atzmusa yisbarach marim v'kadosh. God himself is marim, is beyond, separate. And therefore, it's not like, it's actually, we're walking away we start off inspiring ourselves, getting focused on creation. And as we say, after we say Baruch Hu, we start the Brichas of Krishma, we start walking away from that, beyond that. Means that we're not satisfied with that. We say, 1 second, there's Kihulevade, there's something beyond God being king. There's Kaddish, God's separate from that. So we're climbing up further and further to the essence of God, away from God being inspired or impressed with God's ability to create. We don't want to just tap into God as a king and as a creator, but to the infinite of Hashem. We want to climb out of the world and the levels of God that's beyond the world. That's soviv. Till we realize that this Hashem of Lords, everything that's out there, is only a manifestation from Hashem. That God should be filled, that the whole world should be filled with godliness. He says, the gam kaved, the word kaved, the number value of kaved is kaf is 20, and vav dal is 6 and 4, which is 10, so that's 30, and the base is 32. So what is the word kaved? When we say kaved, the kaved of Hashem, that the Melaychal Arts Kavod, that the whole world is filled with God's presence, God's kavod. Kavod, he says, is Gematria Lamed Beis, is the number value of 32. These are the 32 Nesivos HaChachma. These are the 32 paths, not gates. We talked about it before. There's a difference between the Shari Bina, the gates of understanding, and the paths of Chachma. Paths. But at gate, you could be in the path, you could be standing right outside the gate and you're outside. You could go right in, you're inside. A path is a path, and only that, a path is not even a road. Usually, a path indicates a long path. It's a long path from Chachma downwards. Because the infinite light starts off in Chachma. That's where it goes into initial creation. Chachma of Adam Kadmon, Chachma of Atzilus, and from there it has to go through the 32 paths to come into creation. Ma Rabu Masach Hashem. How multiple, how much are your actions? Means we're acknowledging all creation of Hashem. Kulam, but now we're climbing upwards. But where does it come from? Means to see God's handiwork in creation is one thing, but where does it come from? Kulam Chachma Sisa, the manifestation of Hashem is in Chachma, and from the Chachma to creation is 32 paths of space. The whole world is filled with guards. Kinyanim. Kinyanim is acquisitions. The acquisitions that were done through Chachma and understanding. And that's what's filling the whole world of creation. And that's what we're building towards when our davening is not just to recognize Hashem for the creation, but to recognize the source of creation. And that's what we say Kaddish is to unite. What does it mean? What's the connection of Kutsha Brichu and Shechinte? Shechinte is the Melech, is the way Hashem is within Memalik Olamim. But we want to connect. What does it mean to connect? That God doesn't need us to connect Kedusha to Shechinte. The Hakara, the recognition of Hakadosh Baruch Hu and Shechina. By understanding it, we're unified in our understanding. That therefore to be revealed Kedusha Brichu and Shechinte. And like it says, when it says Shechinta begalusa, what does it mean the Shechina is in Galus, in the times of Galus? It means that there's no revealed connection between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Shechina. Okay. It says, V'hinei noida, it's known. What's the purpose of why we're created? There's no value for the soul itself to come down to this world. It's not that the soul needed something. The soul is in a good space, doesn't need any fixing. There's nothing wrong with the soul, that the soul needs to go through the process of being alive and created within this world. The purpose of creation is, like we said many times, is for the godly soul to clothe itself within and become one with the animal soul. And what's that all about? That the unification between the godly soul and the animal soul should allow for the person to go through the process of making the choices of iskafia, of restraining yourself from what the animal wants to do. And eventually, vishabcha, to transform by nefesh abahamis, that the animal soul itself should no longer be an animal that wants to go march towards negativity. That that both the animal soul together with the godly soul should have one desire, to its Father in heaven, means to serve Hashem. Like we say, that everything, no matter what levels with you, there's no agenda. The point is, when you say means that there's no agenda. My whole existence is to be connected to Hashem. It means even a spiritual agenda. How do we transform and start off by restraining the urges and the wants of the animal, that the wants should be the wants to be only with Hashem, is when the nefesh of the kiss encloses itself in it. So now we're climbing even higher. We start off saying Psuki de Zimra, recognizing the Malikulam, God as a creator. We discuss creation. We go into the higher to show how the angels are understanding the concept of the Shem Yichud Kutra Bricho Shchinte, to connect the Ein Sof, the Sof with Mamali. And then we come to the realization of that not just the point of it all is the Shema Yisrael, that the Nefesh of the Bahamas, the person as its full existence, says Shema Yisrael. Shema is Lashon Havana, understand. Eichu Yizbarach Echad, V'Shemayim V'Aretz, V'Chesad V'Adal, Shem Zayin Rikim V'Aretz, V'Dal Druchas Olam. How everything is one with Hashem, the seven heavens and the four sides of the creation. Kulam B'Teilim V'Chinas Aleph, they're all nullified to the oneness of Hashem, the Aleph. So Aleph, Ches, Daled makes up the word Echad, that the Ches and the Daled submit themselves to the Aleph. Hu Yichudei Yisbarach, Ki Hu Levadehu, that Hashem hasn't changed. There's no real level of creator. Hashem never changes, and the idea is that from all this point of the separation is to climb back up to the realization that notwithstanding of being in a place of so much darkness and so much confusion, we still come to the realization of Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad. And then we say, like it says, Baruch Sha'amar, God spoke and the world came into existence. V'amir achas. That the way God is as a melech, so then there's an olam, there's a world, but that's not the truth. It's God's kingship that creates the whole world from nothing to something. Only that it should appear to the human or to the creation, that we exist as something separate. By day zeh, when a person realizes that's really Hashem Echad, so then we open the floodgates. We allow that not just the nefesh of the kiss that always knew God, but now the nefesh of the kiss as it's a person of nefesh of the kiss with the nefesh Bahamas and a goof, that all that should love Hashem. That's the chiddush. That's what Hashem wants. But the thing is, how could a person just say Shema Yisrael to feel that the nefesh Bahamas should also feel God? So Tiknu Chachamim, the rabbis instituted. Shtayim lefaneha. Do you need to have first two brachas before that, which is the brachas of Kriya Shema? First, we have to go and talk about the angels before we could say Shema. Like I said before, that the angels are able to proclaim Yichud Kutra Bricho Shchinte, to connect the Soviv with Mamali. How they are all in uproar, realizing the Creator. How could you properly love Hashem with even the nefesh of Bahamas, the two sides, the two Yetzer, the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, Shegame Yetzer Hara, even the evil side within you, not the side that recognizes the creation as something separate or looks at it that way, is Yashav also should start off with his skafia. Skafia. Why is skafia celebrated so much in Chassidus more than Ishapcha? Skafia celebrated in Chassidus to restrain yourself is because you're still dealing with yourself. Ishapcha, once you're no longer yourself, it's much harder to get there. But once you're there, to serve Hashem is easier. But to restrain yourself while you're still yourself, that's difficult. It's a big battle. It's constantly the Shem tells Rivka, there's going to be a battle between Yosef and Yaakov. And the battle was until the morning sunrise. Until the sun is going to rise, till the beginning of the light that comes out in the day of the coming of Mashiach. It's all about it. And it says, Bechinas Rav, Bechinas Lefnei Melech, that V'Rav Yavitzar, that the young one is going to have to serve Rav. What's Rav? There's the kings of Esav that are kings before Yaakov. But these great kings that were many in a high level fell down into the world. And now they became a life force of negative, and they got trapped sparks, as is known. They went from a high place to the low place. We have to go, and the battle is that the young one, the Yaakov, has to find these sparks and pick them up. With their godly soul, they have to find within themselves and within the world the sparks and lift them. To control and to be in a ruler over their animal instincts. First to get it in a way of restraining itself, and then to transform itself. And it says, and how does a person do that? How do you deal with the nefesh of Bahamas? It says, if you want to change judgmentally, you want to change things that go astray, you have to go to the root of the problem. You can't rule and get control of the spirit. What's the spirit means? The mindset, the attitude of the animal within you. To bring it under the rule of the godly soul. Meaning, what does it mean, the rule of the godly soul? That it submits itself both in its actions and eventually in its wants. You have to go to the root of the animal. Because before it fell down, its place was in a very high, special, holy place, which are the Chayis HaKodesh Merkava. These are the angels, the animals or the angels that are carrying the chariot in the vision of Yecheskel. Pnei Arya, Pnei Shar. Right? He sees the face of a lion, the face of an ox. And these are animals. So therefore, they say you want to know that you have means. You can't introduce an idea to the nefesh of Bahamas if the behema says, I have no connection to what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. You want me to love Hashem? You want me to have this passion, this energy, and focus it on Kedusha? It's not part of who I am. I live in this world. I have a desire for everything worldly. What are you talking about? It's foreign language to me. So we say, no, it's not true. It's not foreign language to you. Know your roots. Where do you come from? You come from the Chayis HaKodesh of the Merkava. You're the source of passion for Hashem. You just forgot about it. I'm reminding you what you are. You have to remind it. How your source, the angels of the chariot are sanctifying and elevating godliness. And then you can, by reminding and telling the animal that you have the ability to be there. So then you could come to Kriya Shema Aliyas V'Havta B'chol V'Avcha B'Shnei Tzorach, and that's why we have the two brachas. The two brachas are not just to talk about the angels. By talking about the angels, we're telling the animal who the animal is. And therefore, when a person comes to the Shema, you're able to nullify yourself to the one God, and to the extent of Mesiras Nefesh, that even the animal soul is ready to give up its existence, its identity, Mesiras Nefesh, for the infinite light. That's beyond the world, because in the world is a concealment. But when you realize your source, when you realized your source, you weren't just accepting God. You were the power for God. You were the angel that was full of passion. Until they get so excited, realizing its koach, its potential, is that it wants to leave its existence, and that's Mesiras Nefesh. He says, "Va'inyan." We'll go further. It's Va'inyan ideas also, like it says, "Sus v'rachar It says one of the things we praise in the Shira, we say both the horse and the rider get thrown into the sea. So what does this mean? A healthy relationship between a horse and a rider is that the horse nullifies its wants to go to wherever the rider tells it to do, how fast to run, where to run, when to run. Without a rider directing the sus, what's special about a sus? A sus is when a person wants to buy a racehorse. The racehorse is only that potentially, if it has the right rider, it has the potential to win the race. Just that it's a fast horse, no one cares. We want to know, how is the horse going to perform in the race of life? So built haroichev without the rider, in malas sus klum. There's no. It's only potential. When it has someone who rides and directs it, then you see it's only then it's the quality of the horse that matters. Means the point is that we want to take the nefesh Bahamas. There's tremendous power there when it has direction and guidance from the nefesh alikis. Because again, the nefesh alikis is not lacking anything. The nefesh alikis is complete, but nefesh alikis is the rider and it has to ride and direct the horse with all its uniqueness and all its energy to ride towards Hashem. Not only that, not only does the reichev direct the sus, but the reichev needs the sus. The reichev, this is the idea that the neshama. This is the point. Now he's answering the point of the mahalach. What does it mean? I made you a mahalach. We're talking to the godly soul. The godly soul, God says, when you become a person that's guiding the nefesh Bahamas, that's the only way you're going to move. Otherwise, you stand still. And that's why it says that the reichev, then the rider could run to places that it was never able to go before. This is an example to the animal soul. Naturally, it wants worldly things. It's connected to worldly ideas, worldly wants. When the godly soul rides on the nefesh Bahamas, by enclothing itself in it, then that same energy, focus, and power of the nefesh Bahamas is moving with tremendous energy. The Mesiras nefesh Bahamas, and not just moving towards Hashem. Basically, what the Alter Rebbe is saying here, that the Mesiras nefesh of the nefesh Bahamas is much greater than Mesiras nefesh Likis. When the animal understands that it wants to become one with Hashem, that's an uncontrollable love. That's the real passion. Because the nefesh of the kiss doesn't have these kind of extreme movements, and therefore the Mesiras nefesh, when it realizes its source, and it becomes part of now its wants. That before there was kings, before there was anything, before there was kings of Yaakov, there was kings of Esau. That there's so much for the tzair, the younger one, to serve in the older one, when it's in the right energy and right focus. And then that's why we daven Shemona Esrei. Instead, it's an amazing idea. The question that we always ask is, how do we go from Shema Yisrael, talking about the absolute of godliness, and then going straight to wants of this world? Baruch Aleinu, Shema Aleinu, Rifa'enu. We're asking for worldly things. Because once the Nefesh Bahamas understands that its whole existence is to serve Hashem, and its purpose in this world is to serve Hashem, and its wants within what it wants, when it asks Hashem to give me parnasa, when it asks Hashem to heal me, it's with the focus of how can I serve Hashem. When he comes to davening, tefillas yitches ta'amida, hemshachas u'mashpas hamshachas bitul orin tzeif baruch hu b'malachim. They're able to bring such a unification of Shechinta, Kuchabrish and Shechinta, that by the Kaddish, what's the Kaddish? The Kaddish is that when the angels say Kaddish, is that means that das tachten, the way we are in this world. In our separation, we're recognizing the Ein Sof of Hashem, and therefore, when we say Kaddish, when we say the Kaddish, the real kedusha is that we say two times. We say two times kedusha, right? We say kedusha three times. We say kedusha in Hashem. We say kedusha by kedusha by Shemona Esrei by Chazar Shas, and we say kedusha by Vod Tzion, right? So the kedusha of Hashem is we're talking about the kedusha that the angels are saying, but when do the angels say the kedusha? When we say the kedusha in Shemona Esrei, means when we're saying kaddish, we're talking about kaddish. That's we're saying it and we're causing it to happen. So that is the awakening below. Response from above. When we nullify ourselves to the infinite from below down, then it inspires Hashem. So we ask the main question is what does it mean to be a person in movement? Person in movement is the neshama itself is like an angel. But when the neshama impresses and inspires within the nefesh of Bahamas, which is much powerful and its root is much deeper, to become passionate and recognize Hashem, even though it's naturally connected to worldly things, that allows for the nefesh of Alikis to become movement. And that also is the idea of how a person inspires a reaction. You inspire a reaction by a chiddush. And the chiddush is that the Behema says he wants Hashem. And then the angels will say Kedusha. Until then, they can't say Kedusha. There's no response above. There's no ability to say it until there's a Chiddush. And the Chiddush is, the uniqueness is that the animal soul says, I want Hashem. Let's go a little further. It says, V'hinei. We'll go until Dalit. It says, V'hinei kachu b'inyan hamshachas oyin seif baruch hu m'mayla lamata. So too, this is what it means to bring down the infinite of Hashem down to this world. Is Aidei Yisrael be'esak HaTorah. When we learn Torah as a person who's made up of a nefesh of the kis and nefesh bahamis, she chachmasa yitzayni sparach. That's the wisdom and want of Hashem, which is enclosed in the ideas of the Tayarg mitzvahs and the 630 mitzvahs of the Torah of Zion, the Rabbanan, and the seven rabbinic. Together makes up 220. There's 620. Shein tarach, b'gematria keser, and that is the keser. The word tarach, 620, is the number value of the crown of Hashem, which is the real desire of Hashem. Keser is desire, ratzin. Shehein bechinas keser ayin. This is the crown of Hashem. Bechinas kaiserus u'makav sh'mayil ma'al bechinas edish talshus. This is the want of why God created. It's connected to l'mayla misedish talshus. That when we bring down the keser, the want, and we connect through the Torah mitzvahs, the way we are in this world, and we do perform according to the wants of Hashem, it's bringing down the infinite in the finite. And this is how we bring down the infinite of Hashem. After we love Hashem, we inspire our love from Hashem, from below up, that we want to be connected. We no longer want to be a behema, an animal. What are we going to do about it? We're going to say Torah mitzvahs. These words, that I commanded you, we're going to say these words. We're going to learn Torah and perform mitzvahs. We bring down the words from Anechi, from the infinite, from the level beyond creation, from above down. That no longer should creation, world, and myself be part of an entity that's yasir, that's concealing and hiding godliness. And when we learn Torah, it brings down the flow all the way down through Gan Eden, and the angels get from what we're doing. Once we bring down, it affects all creation. Like it says, those who are sitting in the Gan Eden, that the Malachim Nenim, when there's learning Torah, even in the Garden of Eden, even performing Torah in this world, which is not our level of consciousness of Torah, is on a lower level, but nevertheless, it's stopped again in this world where there's the chiddush of learning Torah. That when the Chacham would learn Torah in this world, all the angels would come listen. Why they come listen? Because it's learning of Torah in this world. That's why Hashem says that the Torah was given to the Torah Lebishmayim. The Torah is not in this world. You want to know what Allah is? You have to see how they pass in this world. How the verdict of the law is in this world. Therefore, he says, "V'nimtzah." Turns out, Hashpas Hamalachim Yisrael, that the effect that the Jewish people have on the angels is both from below up, but we have our passion for Hashem and inspired. We say Kaddish by our recognition of Hashem, of the Kuchabrichu, allows for the Malachim to get excited. And then when we learn Torah, we're bringing down the infinite light into this world. It also affects the Malachim. This is what it means that the prophet tells Zechariah, the prophecy of Zechariah, Benesati Mahalchim, I'm going to make you a person of movement, Beis Bini Hilach, two types of movement. You're going to move when you become part of the Nefesh of Bahamas and make the Nefesh of Bahamas, the animal within you want Hashem. You're moving from below up, going away from your wants towards the wants of Hashem. And then what are you doing about it? You're bringing down the word of God into this world. Means once the animal becomes a tool and an entity and a passion for Hashem, it's not only that it wants to leave. The Mesiras Nefesh is step one, but then you realize, what's my purpose of life? The Nefesh Bahamas also is with the rider, has the discipline to be able to bring down great lights through having this desire, through the chiddush of wanting Hashem. It's able to connect and bring it down all the way from Emayla Lamata, Bein Ha'imdim, and it passes through those who stand. Pirish b'pnimis ha'imdim. What does it mean bein ha'imdim? That the nesham, the nefesh of the kis, and the malachim get transformed internally by the work and the efforts of the nefesh of Bahamas that's affected by the nefesh of the kis. which is the malachim liyas hashpas bechinas hiluch bechinas pnimis hamalachim beim matal mai beim matal mata. That both the malachim now could also move with the passion of the nefesh habahamis. So everything is dependent on us. So when you have to decide. So therefore, when they come, and we're going to stop here because I have to go for early davening for Rosh Hashanah, for Chanukah. But the idea is that when the angels come to Hashem and say to Hashem, Ma Adam Kisas Kirena, why are you creating man? Why are you giving the Torah to man? Right? And Moshe Rabbeinu has to answer what's written in the Torah. It's not just a question of the gift. It's what you could do with the gift. That the angels themselves, if they just learn Torah, it's words. They stay icies. They stay avonim. There's no movement in them. But by the animal changing themselves, from extreme, starting with restraint and going on to transformation, then the words change. The words move. So it's not just that Moshe Rabbeinu was telling the angels that you don't deserve it, I'm better than you. It's in your benefit. It's for your benefit that the Torah is given to the Jewish people. All right, everyone, I want to wish you a happy Chanukah, a Freilichen, and we should see Shus Hashem Ke'aravayin, Laila Tov, Chanukah Sameach.